Assalamu alaikum. Winter is near and the months are turning cold. In my home country of Afghanistan, the temperature can go below freezing. Many of our brothers and sisters suffer during these freezing conditions. You see, in Afghanistan, these families don't have central heating, nor can they afford to keep their home warm. Some don't make it and will not see the new year. Here at Imam Hussein Development and Relief Foundation, we aim to provide heating fuel for houses in Herat to keep them warm. Just $150 will give enough coal to burn for 4 months. One household will be kept warm for the whole of winter. You can donate via bank transfer, PayPal, or visit www.ihdrf.org. Thank you very much.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh, dear respected brothers and sisters and dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, and welcome to this special 2 nights Q&A series with our dear guest, our beloved Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. Brothers and sisters, for the past 3 nights you have joined us on Imam Hussein TV as we've discussed the incident of the door, Umar and Fatimiya az-Zahra alayha salam. Hundreds of you have been sending in questions and thousands of you tuning in every single night live here on Imam Hussein TV, live from London. Now, my dear brothers and sisters, before we get the show going, the questions are coming in very quickly and very fast. So we are trying to see the most fitting questions and filter them out to get the best answers possible for everyone around there. Now, before we begin the show, dear brothers and sisters, you want to tune in all the way towards the end this time, because I promise you there is a huge announcement that we have. A new show that we've got coming to your screens live on Imam Hussein TV, and it's something you don't want to miss. And I believe it's something that most of you want to take part in. So do stay tuned for that. But without further ado, I would love to introduce our very own, dear respected Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani. Sayyidina, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Good to be back.
Good to be
back. You know, although a period of mourning for everybody, but it's great to be back in these difficult times. Our prayers are with everybody out there. And alhamdulillah, credit to the team behind the scenes for continuing to do their amazing work as always. So looking forward to tonight's show and having a dialogue with our viewers.
Inshallah. Now, it's been very long since me and you have been on here, so I'm very happy to be back here to discuss the life of Fatimiya az-Zahra alayha salam. Now, Sayyidina, should we get straight into the questions?
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Now, this very first question comes in and it says, Salam alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Sayyidina, the Lady of Heaven film has just been released. Have you seen it, and do you think we should support it, considering the director is known to be controversial? This one comes in from Brother Matham in Finland.
Well, you know, people always ask me about this film ever since it was first discussed.
Yeah.
I personally have not seen it. I hear that the release has been there in America, but there hasn't been a release of the film in the UK. And you know, at the end of the day, people's feedback is always going to be interesting. People are going to have different opinions concerning, on the one hand, the historical content, on the other hand, the acting, the cinematography, and so on and so forth. In the Shia world, I'd say it's been about 25 years where we've tried to focus on having films in the media that depict the narrative of either personalities who lived before the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family, or personalities who lived after the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family. If you look, for example, at the films that have been produced in the last, let's say, 25 years or so, you could have something which is produced discussing the life of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, Yusuf Sif, and you could have a film about Sayyidah Maryam alayhi salam. And then after the Prophet, you could have films, for example, about Mukhtar al-Thaqafi or about Imam al-Rada alayhi salam. Everybody's going to have different opinions about these. I'd say that 3 out of the 4 of these won't be too controversial. Mukhtar could be. And even when you come to the series that was done on Imam Ali alayhi salam's life, that will also have certain sensitive discussions. So when you come to this film, The Lady of Heaven, it's having sensitive discussions. There are films that have been done before it where there are discussions of the sensitive nature of the, certain incidents in Islamic history which were depicted in that discussion or in that film on Imam Ali alayhi salam. So for me personally, having not seen it, I don't want to sit here and judge. At the end of the day, we're going to have feedback from people who have, different interests when it comes to such a film. I did hear some people saying that, these things do not reflect what the Shia believe in. And I'll be amazed if what's depicted in the film doesn't reflect what the Shia believe in. For the Shia out there to say that, what's depicted in there is not what we believe in, and we therefore don't want non-Shia to be offended. At the end of the day, you have your historical narrative, and non-Shia have their historical narrative. And at the end of the day, we did say that we believe that part of the collective memory of the early Muslim community, with their different milal and nahal, they all believed that there was definitely fracas, war of words, differences of opinion after the Prophet, peace be upon his family, died.
Sure.
So to say that what's in the film doesn't necessarily depict what the mainstream Shia believe in, I will be amazed if it doesn't. But I think, when we look at this film, we'd look to see, if it's called Lady of Heaven and it's about Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, it'll be interesting to see, what light it sheds for us on Fatima Zahra alayhi salam's biography, on her position in Islamic history. And, people coming and telling me, well, I differ with the director and so on. Well, you may differ with Spielberg's worldview, but you certainly watched a lot of his films, and you may have differed with Tarantino's worldview, or Ridley Scott's worldview, or Harvey Weinstein's worldview, but you watched those films and in some cases paid, handsome money to either watch in the cinema or rent the DVD. So, differing with a director of a film doesn't stop many people from watching a film.
Now, Zaina, just a follow-up question for that. You mentioned the movies of Nabi Yusuf alayhi salam, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Those movies, Mukhtar, those movies mostly were in other languages maybe centered around a certain geographical location. But now you're talking the Lady of Heaven film with its director, with its controversy, all of that, and in the English language where, let's face it, the English language is one of the most popular languages in the world. Do you think that is kind of a step up with the controversy?
I don't know. Look, there's a huge demographic of Muslims in the Western world.
Yeah.
And this demographic of Muslims all have their different opinions on Islamic history. No one's forcing anyone to subscribe to the Shia narrative. Nor do we want the Shia narrative to be a narrative that, is condescending towards anyone.
Sure.
If it's accurate historical description according to the Shia sources, then I don't see, what the issue is for a person to assume that we're not going to have films concerning or relating to our history. It's pretty absurd, The Jewish community with Schindler's List had a groundbreaking moment, and the Christian community with the Passion of the Christ. And that did have a backlash, and Mel Gibson did face a backlash. Listen, you could be Mel Gibson, like the most loved, and you can still have a backlash from people. So if the director of The Lady of Heaven gets a backlash, it won't surprise me. If Gibson can get a backlash, anyone can.
Ahsantum Sayyidina. We move on to this question. It says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. My name is Sayyid Hashim Ali Shah Al-Hassani. I am 16 years old. My question is, the Mukhalifeen love to say that we the Shia disrespect Imam Ali alayhi salam by saying that he just sat back and witnessed his wife being oppressed. How do we respond to this? Are the actions of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Kitab Sulaym authentic, reliable? Are they enough? About 4 questions in one.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, there's a few questions there. Kitab Sulaym is probably the only text that talks about Imam Ali alayhi salam grabbing hold of those who attacked the house in which Imam Ali resided. You could call it an attack on Fatima Zahra. Fatima Zahra is behind the door. These people want to get in. They believe there's a group of people in there who are not pledging allegiance to the government, may also have an interest in removing the powers that be at that time. And Kitab Sulaym mentions Imam Ali alayhi salam showing a defense, which possibly is unlike the majority of other Shia narratives, which talk of an Imam Ali alayhi salam submitting to a will of the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family, or a wasiyah from the Prophet telling him that he's going to have to remain patient with what he's going to see. And if Imam Ali alayhi salam remains patient, then we follow. And if Imam Ali alayhi salam decides to fight, then we follow. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa saw Sumayya and Yasir, the parents of Ammar, tortured in front of him and did not raise one sword to defend them. No one can accuse Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa of not doing his job or not helping his community. So I think the same applies to Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen, if there's a wasiyah from his Prophet, he follows what that wasiyah says. Kitab Sulaym is a book which is open to question. Shaykh al-Mufid made that clear, that what's within Kitab Sulaym, you cannot take everything. You refer to the scholars. There might be parts of the narrative that we can take, that even non-Shia have in their narrations that Umar ibn al-Khattab threatens to burn the house where the likes of Imam Ali and Zubair and others are gathering. But to say that we take everything, like maybe Nu'mani believed that Kitab Sulaym should be praised wholeheartedly, we don't necessarily take everything within there. There's definitely been additions to Kitab Sulaym. There's definitely some discrepancies in manuscripts. But which book in Shi'ism can you take everything from?
Ahsan. Now, just thought it's very interesting on the point of the threat. The next question actually says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. What difference does it make whether Fatima was killed or not? Because some people say that, he just threatened her. So, our dear brother Ghazi from Kuwait is saying, isn't the threat enough?
The thing is with the threat is that there are non-Shia who even with the threat justify the threat. There are non-Shia who you'd think that when he knows that Umar ibn al-Khattab has threatened to burn the house where he believes these conspirators who are not pledging allegiance to the first Khalifa, and he believes that if they don't pledge that allegiance, then there's nothing wrong with a threat of burning the house. Even with that threat, there are people who say, well, Umar did it for the greater good. Umar did it to protect the government. I wish that the threat was enough. You'd think that anyone who hears that Umar ibn al-Khattab has threatened Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, or threatened the house where she is, you'd think that that should be enough for a person. But there are still Muslims who don't deem that as enough. So for us as Shia, not only do we believe that there's an attack that's taken place, and mind you, they don't have a problem. They don't have a problem burning the house of someone they have a difference with. Umar talks about this when it comes to his own son draping some luxury fabric in his house. There's a threat to burn the house. They have a problem with Qutayla, the lady the Prophet doesn't end up marrying. She doesn't wear hijab. He doesn't consummate the marriage. And there's an issue which they have that if she continues to get married as a wife of the Prophet after he dies, normally the wives of the Prophet are not allowed to marry anyone after they've married the Prophet, peace be upon his family. They're ready to burn her house if she does marry anyone else. So you've got these personalities who are ready to burn their own son's house if the luxury fabric. The narration is within the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shayba about Umar being ready to burn the house of his son when he hears about him having a luxury fabric in the house. And I said this in my lecture, that if you now found out that your family member had bought an expensive curtain, would you, for example, turn around to them and say, I'm going to burn the house if this is true? No. So for us, firstly, a threat is not enough. We discuss everything. And secondly, if there are further discussions about the order to attack the house of Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, then why don't we talk about them? We certainly cannot reconstruct everything in the incident. But if there are, it's clearly something very early. Al-Fazari is a Ibadi scholar. Ibadis are mainly in Oman. Al-Fazari was the business partner of Hisham ibn al-Hakam. Hisham ibn al-Hakam, as we know, is one of the greatest companions of the Imams of Ahlul Bayt. And Al-Fazari mentions how Hisham al-Hakam is part of a group, part of the Rafida, and the Rafida believe that Fatima al-Zahra was attacked in this way with the miscarriage and so on. So very early in the Shia community, we had this belief. So why don't we make it clear? It's like someone saying, why does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, when he talks about Naqat Salih, إِذٍ بَعَثَ أَشْقَاهَا, and it continues, فَقَالَ لَهُمْ رَسُولُ اللَّهِ نَاقَةَ اللَّهِ وَسُقْيَاهَا فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَعَقَرُوهَا فَدَمْدَمَ. Why is Allah so descriptive? Why doesn't Allah just say that they threatened to kill the camel of Salih? Why does Allah continue by saying فَكَذَّبُوهُ فَعَقَرُوهَا فَدَمْدَمَ? Why all the description, Ya Allah? Why so graphic?
Good question. Good question.
So for us, it's not a matter of let's stop at a threat. Rather, if something extra has happened, we'll discuss that thing. You want to agree, or you agree to disagree.
Now, Sayyidina, just before we continue, I want to remind the viewers who have just joined us that we have a huge announcement that you want to wait until the end of this show, where we will make that beautiful, beautiful announcement of a brand new show coming to Imam Hussein TV, which many of you, most of you will want to take part. So do stay tuned for that. Now, Sayyidina, this next question comes in and it says, Salaam alaikum Sayyid Ammar. My question is, if Imam Ali alayhi salam witnessed all the atrocities that happened to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, and they caused her death, then after her death, what made Imam Ali alayhi salam reconcile with Abu Bakr and Umar, and why did he not expose them in that period of time? Scholars say it's for unity, but surely the atrocities of Lady Fatima salamullah alayha were too huge to overlook. My name is Sayyida Zainab Shah and I'm a Shia student from Sheffield.
Yeah, I defy anyone to provide me with more than 7-8 stories about the life of Imam Ali alayhi salam for 20 years after Abu Bakr became Khalifa. Now we know when Abu Bakr became Khalifa, there was the Ridda wars, apostates. We know that the religion expanded, the religion went far and wide. We knew that different governors were placed into different positions. I would like people to provide me with an understanding of Imam Ali's life from the moment Abu Bakr became Khalifa for the next 20 years. So from, for example, 11 after Hijrah until 33 after Hijrah, I want them to provide me with an understanding of those 20 years. When we say an understanding of those 20 years, it's because I don't see Imam Ali alayhi salam in any position whatsoever for 20 years in the prime of his life, from 33 until the age of 53. Where is Imam Ali alayhi salam in all those years? People make it sound like that Imam Ali alayhi salam reconciling with those who were in power is like Imam Ali was with them in court, and Imam Ali was there making all the decisions, and Imam Ali was leading armies. There's not much there. If they needed any advice from Imam Ali alayhi salam, for the sake of the religion of Islam, he would advise. But the best ever narration you could have in terms of Imam Ali alayhi salam's opinion of what took place after the Prophet died is the sermon of Shaqshaqiyya in Nahj al-Balagha, sermon number 3. Sermon number 3 of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam makes it clear about, imagine there's a pricking in the eye and a thorn in the throat, or a thorn in the eye, pricking in the throat. It's a suffocation. And he talks about, people milking the udders of the caliphate. That's not a way you describe the most pious government after the Prophets died. And then he talks of trials and tribulations and oppression and innovation, until he makes it clear that when it comes to Uthman becoming Khalifa, they now said that I'm part of a shura. When's there a doubt about me being number 1? Now that I'm part, for them to decide number 3, and so on. So the sermon in Nahj al-Balagha highlights Imam Ali's real opinions about the Saqifa government.
Ahsantum saying that. And to the dear brothers and sisters who are out there who want to know more about the life of Imam Ali during the period of the 3 caliphs, Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani has a very lengthy lecture, 1-hour lecture on that particular event. So do go watch that, but after this show, because you don't want to miss our announcement. Now, Sayyidina, this next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. I go to IEC Mosque in Houston, and our Maulana last week in the Friday prayer said that you, Sayyid Ammar, are only respected because of your good English, and because you support the Lady of Heaven film, then we cannot trust you. I'm only 22, and these things are very confusing, not just to me, but other youths in the West. I would like to remain anonymous if that's okay.
I just advise the Maulana to stick to talk about 14 people more important than me. Next.
Short and brief and sweet. This next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. My question is that these lectures, he said that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi has other daughters and Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. Do we, the Shia, believe that, and how? Because we always hear he's only had one daughter.
The Prophet, peace be upon him, his family had 4 daughters. And one can refer to Shaykh al-Tusi for this within Tahdhib al-Ahkam, that the hot Prophet had a daughter by the name of Zainab, and a daughter by the name of Ruqayya, and a daughter by the name of Kulthum. And he had, of course, Fatimah al-Zahra alayhi salam. I know that there are some who try and maybe reach a conclusion that possibly, and I've heard this from Shia scholars, that it could be Khadija's sister's daughters.
Okay.
And then he treated them like his own. But I think if you look in our literature, it's clear that he has 4 daughters. But the 3 of the 4 die during his lifetime, so before he dies. The 2nd year after Hijrah, the 8th year after Hijrah, and the 9th year after Hijrah. And he even says, may God curse, those who oppress my daughters. You'll find the hadith, it's a Hasan hadith in Tahdhib al-Ahkam. So yeah, 4 daughters, and there's no problem in him having 4 daughters. Perfectly fine.
Ahsan Sayyidina, thank you so much for that answer. The next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. I don't believe that Umar ibn al-Khattab could have smashed the door. He was someone who was hesitant to even attack the people of the Ridda wars, the apostates. Although I can't say a threat is something I can take lightly, but anything further than that, don't you think it's too far?
Firstly, let's make something clear. That is, Umar ibn al-Khattab threatening to burn the house should be enough for people to reassess their relationship, A, with him, B, with their whole conception of the ultimate decency of those who surrounded him, and C, with the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. You can't say that you love Fatima Zahra alayhi salam and you love those who threatened the house that she stayed in. And for someone to say that, Umar could not have done this because of the fact that he was even hesitant to fight those who had supposedly apostated in the Ridda wars and so on and so forth. Umar al-Khattab has a history where he can get violent. The way he came to Islam was through violence, and the violence that he showed his sister. Supposedly, slapping his sister on his way to killing the Prophet, peace be upon his family. And possibly in the days of Jahiliyyah, Umar ibn al-Khattab was of those who tortured Muslims. It's interesting how some religions have people who torture the followers of the religion and then become the most important names in that religion. And so, I wouldn't put it past him to have moments where clearly he, even against the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family, in times like Hudaybiyah or the incident of the pen and paper. And if you are able to raise your voice against the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family, then, what's left? There are clear incidents where, with Hudaybiyah, with the pen and paper, with the verses in the beginning of Surah Al-Hujurat, where Umar even, raises the questions against the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family. And he's willing to kill anyone who says that the Prophet died when the Prophet died, and they say, well, that was him just being a bit emotional. There was a speaker by the name of, I think, Dr. Khalid Yasin, or Sheikh Khalid Yasin.
Okay.
I think he was an African-American convert who said a line once when discussing the biography of of Umar al-Khattab. He said Umar al-Khattab was a bully before he became a Muslim, and he was a bully after he became Muslim, but a good bully.
Okay.
Yeah, so I really don't understand what that means. I don't know how. Can anyone really be a good bully? Could you be a good bully at school? Could you say, that guy's a really good bully to me? He bullies me really good. There's no such thing as good bully. A bully is a bully.
Unless you bully a bully.
Yeah, even that, I'm not sure about. At the end of the day, so what we come to a conclusion of is that, unfortunately, the man had a certain temperament, and that temperament is seen in the fact that he may not threaten to burn Fatima herself, but the house, if there's Hassan and Hussein, there's Zubair, there's Imam Ali, it doesn't stop him. Yeah.
Now, Sayyidina, this question before our beautiful announcement. This question says, Assalamu alaikum, Sayyid Ammar. Why did the Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam love Medina so much and wanted to live in Medina when the people of Medina tortured Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima Zahra alayhi salam? What's their reason for their love of Medina?
I think firstly, their love of Medina is because of the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi being buried there. Secondly, people in Medina were actually very good with Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam.
Okay.
For many years, the Ansar were very good. I can only think of, I think Nu'man bin Bashir, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi is the only Ansari, maybe there's one or two others who I could think were really anti-Imam Ali alayhi salam or anti-Ahlul Bayt. Majority of the Ansar were very good with Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. But I think that attachment to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi, and with the later Imams, that attachment to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, I think that really shows in the way that they always wish that they were in Medina.
Ahsan Sayyidina. Now, to my dear viewers of Imam Hussein TV, myself, Dr. Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani, the team here at Imam Hussein TV have been working on a huge project that you're about to see right now. Let's take a look. As you have seen there, my dear brothers and sisters of Imam Hussein TV, we are proud to announce our new show, the Shia Voice. Now, this show has been in the works for quite some time now, and we're very happy to be able to announce it to you. But it isn't justice if I don't let our very dear respected Sayyid, who's been working on this show with the Imam Hussein TV team, tell you more about it. Sayyidina, to you.
Yeah, it really is a wonderful opportunity. It's a wonderful competition. In the mosques that I've recited around the world, I've always found that you hear someone recite the Quran beautifully, but no one really takes them on, gives them bigger opportunities. I've heard people recite Nawhas and Marsiyas and Qasidas and Nasheeds, but then I never hear about them again a few years later. And then there are people who've got talents, but they may be in a community where you may not even have a mosque in that local area, or your Husseiniya or your local Imam Barga may not necessarily offer too many opportunities. And then there are people out there who I think have got excellent oratory and can give great majalis, but just haven't had the chance. If I put it similar to, you know, there are great football players out there, but they just haven't been scouted, and you just might be unfortunate in that the day you play your best games, the scouts are not there. We then saw that there are a lot of shows, whether in Britain or in America or even in Karbala, where they invite people from around the world, where they invite people even locally and say that, listen, come in front of a few judges, recite a Nawha, recite a Marthiya, recite a Qasida, recite a Latmiya, recite a Nasheed. You want to give a 10-minute talk. And it's our honor at Imam al-Hussein TV to be able to gift one of the competitors who has that love for Allah and the Ahl al-Bayt, alayhim salam, gift them with a top prize, which I wouldn't mind, to tell you the truth, of £10,000. Now, someone might be listening to this and saying, oh, I don't have the voice. But no one said that this is only to be won by a brilliant voice for a Latmiya or a Nasheed. You could have the voice for oratory or spoken word poetry. You could have the voice for a Qasida. You could have the voice for a lecture, poetry, So many different ways in which one may use the blessing that is the voice of the human being. I'm not gifted with the nicest voice in the world.
Sayyidina, if you were to compete.
But listen, I can use my voice when it comes to lecturing. Others might use their voice. They might come here and read a masa'ib or na'i for us. And the judges we have on board, watch this space. That's all I'm going to say to everybody at home. Watch this space. We're going to have some of the biggest names in the Shia world, from Arabic, Urdu, Farsi, English. They're going to be the judges. You could be watching this from any part of the world. You send your clips in. Yes, you send that clip in. You may have your son who's got this unbelievable talent, for a clip. There might be, there's some sisters I've heard them recite poetry, spoken word, which has been unbelievable. It really hits the heart, the message, how strong it is. There are some of our young ones who can recite the Quran beautifully. Send the clip in. You could record on WhatsApp. You could record unbelievably, at some local media studio. Send your clip in. You never know. You could have the chance. And the finalists will be trained depending on, for example, what they have been successful with one of the judges. So, if you are one of the finalists, when it comes to, for example, giving a talk, a lecture, a majlis, you can send in a clip, and you end up in the finals, then I will be the one who'll train you. And if you are a Latmiya or Nawha reciter, then trust me, the names who are going to be judges, you're going to be honored to be trained by them. And if you're a Quran reciter, the Quran reciter we're bringing. So we're going to make it where the judges sit and where people come and they recite.
We'll keep them on the edge of their seat, Sayyidina.
Inshallah.
The grand prize, as you saw during the break there, is a huge prize, and a prize of just love and support for the next generation or for the current generation to go out there and serve the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. And it's come from a sponsor who inshallah we will reveal in the coming days. But if you do want more details about this show, about this competition, then we've just right now posted on our Instagram where you can find more details about that. So inshallah stay tuned for that. We're very happy to announce. And also on Sayyid Ammar's Instagram at Dr. Sayyid Ammar Official. Now, Sayyidina, shall we go back to the questions?
Sure.
Inshallah. Now, this next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. My name is Shahbaz Ghulam from Lahore, Pakistan. My question is, many Shia call out Ya Fatima, but she has died, so how could you call her? The dead cannot hear, let alone answer our prayers. This confuses me.
Yeah, I think there's two questions in one here, or I should say there are 2 points in one to be discussed. The first is, can the dead hear?
Yeah.
The second is, does that mean the dead can help? In terms of the dead hearing us, the dead don't just hear us, they can see us. The dead can hear. How many examples I can give from the history of this religion, or even some aspects of practice of worship. But from the history of the religion, when the Holy Prophet, peace be upon his family, talks to those who have died in the Battle of Badr and they are in the wells, and his companions say, they've died, why are you talking to them? And he says, they can hear us better than you can.
Yeah.
Then you have, for example, the fact that we say, Assalamu alayka ayyuhan nabi, in salah wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. If he's dead, cannot hear us, why am I saying salam to him? We believe that the Prophet, as we say, tasma' kalami, tarud salami, yes, that you hear my salam and you reply. You hear my words and you reply to my salam. So within Shia discussions, you'll find that we believe, and even non-Shia, that the Prophet, we can say salam to the Prophet, and that a person can expect a reply. Now, after that, you move into a territory that's known as the territory of istighatha.
Okay.
That if someone calls out, Ya Fatima adrakini, Ya Fatima aghithini, where does that fall under? Some try and argue by saying Fatima al-Zahra and the Ahl al-Bayt, an ayah could be applied to them like وَلَا تَحْسَبَنَّ الَّذِينَ قُتِلُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ أَمْوَاتًا بَلْ أَحْيَاءً عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ يُرْزَقُونَ. Some will use that ayah. Do not count those who have died in the way of Allah as being dead. Rather, they are alive, receiving sustenance
from their
Lord. So, in doing that, you found that they said if they are in the world of barzakh, then why can they not answer those who call out, Ya Fatima aghithini? The reply could be that even if you're in the world of barzakh, and you are not dead, rather you're alive, that doesn't then automatically become, that means that you can help someone.
Okay.
Yeah. You're in the world of barzakh, and we all believe in the world of barzakh Islamically, but that doesn't then mean that a person, when you call out Ya Fatima or Ya Ali, that means automatically one can help. Then there is an ayah, for example, like in Surah An-Nisa, وَلَوْ أَنَّهُمِ الظَّلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُم جَاءُوكَ وَاسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَاسْتَغْفَرَ لَهُمُ الرَّسُولُ لَوَجَدَ اللَّهَ تَوَّابًا رَحِيمًا. When they had been unjust to themselves, had they come to you, O Prophet, and asked God for forgiveness, and you had asked God for forgiveness on their behalf, Allah would have forgiven. They say, look, person can say, Ya Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, I want something answered.
Yeah.
I want some help in something. And that the Holy Prophet could help because the ayah says this. Another group says in reply to this that this is only when he was alive.
Okay.
But then, is there a generality in the ayah or no? So this is also something which is debated.
Okay.
So you found that the debate therefore resulted in some people saying, if you say Ya Fatima, Ya Ali, and expect help from them. So for example, what if someone says, Ya Fatima, I want a new house, and I want you to be the one who gets it for me. Now the Imams of Ahl al-Bayt point to the fact that in areas such as the rizq is not their remit. That is to ask, you ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Sure.
Maybe a difference between someone who says, Ya Allah bihaqqi Fatima. You're asking Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, Ad'uni astajib lakum. Allah says in the Quran, وَإِذَا سَأَلَكَ عِبَادِي عَنِّي فَإِنِّي قَرِيبٌ أُجِيبُ دَعْوَةَ الدَّاعِ إِذَا دَعَانِي فَلْيَسْتَجِيبُوا لِي. So you'll see that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keeps saying, call upon me. So if I call, Ya Allah bihaqqi Fatima, Ya Allah bihaqq al-Hasan, bihaqq al-Husayn, bihaqq Ali, bihaqq al-Sadiq. But that's different to Ya Fatima aghithini. So those who might come out and say, I'm going to call on Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. Again, how do they justify it theologically? They'll try and use certain verses. And so this is a debate that continues to wrangle back and forth.
Ahsantum Sayyidina. Now this next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Please shed some light. This one's very interesting. Please shed some light as to why Abu Bakr and Umar attended Fatima al-Zahra alayha salam in her last days if they killed her. Normally it does not comply the intellect that an arch enemy attends a person at her deathbed, provided that same person is responsible for that much troubles. Prayers for you, Sayyidina.
These people are the heads of a government, and a government at the end of the day wants to be involved in everything that's happening. In some cases, Abu Bakr is narrated to have said, and that's within the collective memory of the Muslims, irrespective if someone wants to weaken every narrator. He says that I had 3 things which I done, which I wish I didn't. And one of them, he mentions the killing of Fuja as-Sulami, the apostate. And he also mentions taking the Khilafah and says, I wish that Umar and Abu Ubaidah, one of them had taken it and I was the minister. And the third thing is invading the house of Fatima. So there may have been some regret on that, but also to keep an eye out on who they believe were the conspirators behind the lack of a pledge of allegiance, the likes of Zubair and others. Yeah.
Ahsan Sayyidina. Now this question I think is a very important question. And I think this really needs to be answered. Says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Why is it that in our communities Fatimiya's importance is diminishing? I know people in the Iraqi community who don't even care whether it's Shahada of Sayyidah Fatima alayhi salam or not. They'll even have dinners at home, laugh, enjoy, maybe even have a wedding. And I think me and you have both seen this. Seen examples like that where, you know, we're preparing to serve Fatima Zahra alayhi salam during Fatimiyya, or even Muharram. We prepared to serve Imam Al-Hussein alayhi salam. And we look online and we look on our friends and they've sent us an invite to a wedding on those days.
Yeah, it could be looked at in two ways. One way, we give benefit of the doubt to some people.
Okay.
Everyone's on a different spiritual journey. Some people are ahead of others. That could have been us once upon a time.
Yeah.
You know, and then, you know, we may have been inspired, we changed. Everyone's on a different journey. Sure. Another way to look at it is that there are some people who may not believe in these things. There are some people who do Muharram, for example, because it's cultural, not because they're really into it, but culturally you have to be there. Some do Hajj because you have to tick it off the box. You know what I mean? You got to make sure that you've gone, everyone else is gone, you're the last one. And there are some people who their relationship with Ahlul Bayt is purely Imam Ali and Imam Al-Hussein alayhim as-salam. If next week Imam Al-Jawad's Shahada, there are some people who literally have no interest in discussing it with their family members. They'll all be sitting at home. Adi. The kids aren't taught about Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam. You know, the parents could be miles away. And the same could affect, at the end of the day, the parents are the ones who set that buzz in the family. You know, they're the ones who really are the role models that, listen, this is the period of Fatimiya. You see your mom or your dad watching a lecture at home, you don't forget it. You know, wow, they're looking, if they're emotional, I'll never forget this period. And if the parents don't care, the parents are miles away from religion, how do you expect then for there to be any care whether it's Fatimiya or not? And that's why it's sad sometimes. There are some families. I've seen one community in America, they could have a wedding on the night of a shahad of an imam.
Wow.
And they're all, you know, it's very comfortable for them and they'll be dancing. And I'm even amazed that the Maulana who does the nikah or the katb kitab for that wedding, you know, on the shahada of an imam.
Yeah.
And they'll do it. They won't bat an eyelid. And it's not because they're bad people, but because the houses they've been raised in have only told them for 10 nights in Ashura is when you really have to be like, don't have a wedding. But like the rest of the year, Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Rida, some of them have never heard these names. So we have to inculcate that within our communities, that you check the calendar. It's not a very difficult thing to do. Check the calendar and see. Within the calendar, does it say anything about, for example, that this particular period is Fatimiya, or this particular period? Now, Fatimiya is a bit different because 3 narrations, someone might have commemorated the first narration, and we might be judging them. You know, they may do the 3rd narration, we might be judging them.
That's fair.
But when it's something like Imam Al-Jawad alayhi salam, and it's his mawlud or something, and you've got people who blatantly, you know, are having a wedding on his shahada. I don't mind if you're having a wedding on the mawlud, okay, but on the shahada. So it requires reminder and reflection. Sometimes the problem may be the mosques that are closed. There are some mosques in London which are closed a lot of the year. The youth have now had to go to other centers in London, not the mosques, because the mosques are closed. So maybe it's the fault may lie in some of the mosques not inculcating that spirit.
Inshallah. Inshallah, the new generation steps it up. This next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar, you're an inspiration for me and many others. I'm blessed for sitting under your lectures, for that made me nearer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I wonder, did the Imams alayhimus salam do la'na on Abu Bakr and Umar for taking their rights and for doing what they did to our mother Fatima Zahra alayhi salam? And if so, where is it found? Saman Bayat from Norway.
Did the Imams do la'na as in la'na by name?
Yeah.
By name, no. By name, no.
Okay.
They talk about the dhulm, the oppression, yes. But by name, I personally have not come across anything like that. And even some may come to a ziyarah like Ashura, and they say 1, 2, 3, al-awwal, al-thani. I haven't seen by name.
Ahsan Sayyidina. Next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Why is it that Fatima, Khadija, Maryam and Asiya alayhim salam are the 4 greatest women of the world? Why aren't there any other ladies? Why is it limited to 4?
Yeah, these are narrations that reach us about, about these 4. I don't know how reliable these narrations are in grouping this 4. We normally inherit a lot of such knowledge and literature, but these 4 are grouped, and no one can deny that if you look at the top 10 ladies in Islamic history, these 4 are going to be there.
Yeah.
But there are others who were great living at that time as well. Sumayya, the mother of Ammar, Asma bint Umays,
Yep.
Ayman, Fidda, there's a female as well who
Sayyidah
knew her
Zainab?
medicine. Yeah, of course, of the ones who come later. Fatima bint Asad.
Yeah.
So all of these are great ladies. We don't have to limit it to 4.
Ahsan Sayyidina. This question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. I'm Alina from Pakistan. My question for the Sayyid regarding Fatimiya is that why is it that this part of Islamic history is not known or so hidden from the general public? For example, with people like Yazid and Muawiyah, even though many try to defend them, there is still a huge question mark on them that even non-Shi'as accept. But for the first 2 caliphs, people won't hear a word against them, nor will they accept what happened. Why are these 2 personalities so highly respected regardless of what they have done?
Regardless of what they have done, we need to realize that there are many who don't necessarily know what they did. They will know, of course, about the positive aspects of their rule. They are related to the Prophet, peace be upon his family, in terms of being father-in-laws. They're there in that prophetic period. They migrate with the Prophet, peace be upon his family. But for many, they don't know about the hadith, Fatima dies angry with Abu Bakr. There are many who don't know about Umar threatening the burning of the house for certain. And so, you got to remember as well that Abu Bakr and Umar, in reality, in the same way people say that the Shia have this concept of Isma and Ma'soomeen, that after the Prophet died, there's a group of people who are Ma'soom, called the Imams.
Yep.
Abu Bakr and Umar are virtually untouchable. And you really, it's very sensitive for a person to even think of questioning them. Umar ibn al-Khattab is compared to prophets in the sense that, the hadith, if there was a prophet after me, it would be Umar. It's untouchable. If Umar decides Taraweeh, then Taraweeh it is. If Umar decides to ban Mut'ah, then Mut'ah is banned. If Umar decides that Hayya ala khayr al-amal is not to be in the adhan, then that's to be removed. Virtually, he can have his ijtihad on so many issues, even if it goes against something that the Prophet said, and is virtually untouchable. And if you're brought up revering someone like that who's virtually untouchable, then the Shia opinion of him becomes too sensitive to listen to. Many Shia, for years, there's many Shia in countries around the world who were not able to discuss Fatimiya because, it's censored, talking about the companions where you're looking at some of the negatives of what the companions were involved in.
Sure.
Skirmishes, battles, war of words. There are certain companions who hated each other. They hated one another with a passion.
Wow.
And yet you can't really talk about that, there's no love lost between Uthman bin Affan and Abu Dhar al-Ghafari. Muawiyah and Imam Ali, Amr ibn al-As and Imam Ali, alayhi salam. And there's others who cannot stand each other.
Yeah.
But you can't talk about that, and because you can't talk, especially about the first two caliphs, it means that a lot of people become desensitized from that discussion.
Ahsantum Sayyidina. Now this next question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar, what is Mus'haf Fatima? Do the Shia believe it is another Quran? Sister Ayah from Leicester.
Mus'haf Fatima is not another Quran. Yeah, I know that for years, people would accuse the Shia and say, you guys have another Quran. No, we don't, trust me.
I think we've heard that a lot.
Yeah. Don't mind if there was a surah called Surah Imam Ali or something. It would make things a lot easier. But no, we don't have another surah, another Quran. This Mus'haf Fatima is 3 times the length of the Quran that we have. Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, because of the sorrow and grief that she had faced after the Prophet, peace be upon his family, died, in our belief, Jibreel, or one of the angels, comes to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. And someone might say, oh, what do you mean one of the angels comes to Fatima Zahra? Astaghfirullah, shirk. No. What we mean is that in the same way the angel visited Maryam alayhi salam, likewise an angel can visit Fatima. Imam Ali writes the dictations of what's being told about the Prophet's life, about future events, political upheavals, and so on and so forth. So that is the definition of what is the Mus'haf of Fatima.
Ahsantum Sayyid. Now, this next question is very, very interesting because it says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar, when Imam Ali alayhi salam requested for the 300 men who came to him to come the next day with their heads shaved off, what was the reasoning that only 4 came and Ammar came late? Were the others too scared, or did something happen between them, between the time Imam Ali alayhi salam told them to shave their heads and the next day? Because I've always wondered this question as well. Because we hear, in the Battle of Jamal, Battle of Siffin, Nahrawan, we hear the companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam like Uwais al-Qarani, Khuzayma bin Thabit al-Ansari. So many companions we hear from your lectures. But only 4 turned up, 4 or 5. Maybe I think in your lecture you mentioned that there was like 6 or 7 of them that turned up. But a very low number. But we revere so many companions of Imam Ali alayhi salam.
Yeah, it's not an easy period for sure. That after Saqifa happened and people say, well, why didn't Imam Ali alayhi salam do anything? And he tells these few hundred, he's like, well, you guys, want me to fight for my rule, then go shave your heads. It's not easy, at that moment, how many are going to turn up? How many they got families? How many don't know about the upheaval? Of course, that number of 5 or 4, 5, 6 increases to 12 within a few days of those who speak out against what took place at Saqifa. But look, it's like, one may argue, it's like Karbala. Karbala is the scene where you've got a situation where there are a lot of good people who could have come to Karbala. But for one reason or another, you don't know. Is it the family? Is it the fear of what's going to happen at that particular time? If I leave my house, I'll get killed. Some did get killed.
Yeah.
So, there's different reasons why they don't turn up. Wallahu a'lam.
Ahsan Sayyidina. Now, when I saw this question, I said, okay, I need an answer for this because I don't know what this question is.
So does that mean that you could have answered every other question?
No. No, we're not going to go that far. But this question is kind of unusual. I haven't had this one before.
Go ahead. I hope it's not that unusual because I want to answer it as well, and now you're scaring me. Tell me.
Anticipation?
Let's do this.
So, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. We have at home in Morocco the hand of Fatima. What is the origin of this? What is the hand of Fatima, Sayyid?
Yeah, hand of Fatima. I think even in Jewish tradition, they have something similar, like the hand. So it's this hand, which I think you see the 5, isn't it? There's like, the 5 fingers, the hand. I think it's called in some circles the Hamsa. For the number 5 in Arabic, we say Khamsa.
Yeah.
And some call this the
Hamsa. Hamsa in Iraqi means something else.
What does Hamsa in Iraqi mean?
Hamsa means when you hit someone on their back, Sayyidina.
Allah. By the way, I have to tell the viewers that Minhal is, if Iraq had a human who embodied it, irrespective of whether he lived in Denmark or he lived in London, it's Minhal. He's one of the few people that I know who is on his auntie's WhatsApp groups. And he recently took me to a great restaurant in London called Dijla, which I got to give a shout out to because they were fantastic. The food was amazing.
Free shout out to them. That's
free shout out to them. Well deserved. Well deserved. Anyway, Khamsa. We'll stick to Khamsa.
Yeah.
So some pre-Islam it had connotations with Maryam alayhi salam, the Virgin Mary. And with Islam, it has connotations, Fatima Zahra, because of her purity. Because of the fact that people believe there's a sort of intercessory stroke, intermediary vibe, character to Fatima Zahra alayhi salam. So people felt that protects from different negative energies. Yeah.
Ahsanteen. Now this question comes in and it says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Even though some Sunni scholars say that the riwayah in the Musannaf of Ibn Abi Shaybah regarding Umar threatening to burn the house of Fatima alayhi salam is sahih, it cannot be for the following reasons. The riwayah is narrated by Zayd ibn Aslam, son of the slave of Umar, and was not even a slave of Umar when this incident happened. And he must have heard it from someone who fabricated at that time. Hence, this is not a sahih riwayah.
Him not being the slave of Umar is neither here or there at that time. Because if I give you an example, Aisha was not the wife of the Prophet and around at the time of the first revelation, yet she still narrates it to us, doesn't she? Aisha narrates to us the time of the first revelation, what took place. She wasn't there. So you're saying here that this person was not the servant. The servant of Umar was not around when the incident of the door took place. Aisha was not around on some of the narrations that she narrates. So how come she narrates those narrations? She wasn't around, but you don't have a problem with it. Secondly, enough for me is that Aslam, Zayd, the whole family, they had this story within their family circles. This story was there and it was present within their family circles. And that's enough for us. That part of the collective memory of that family was that they taught their kids that this is what Umar ibn al-Khattab instigated against the house of Fatima. But for someone to say to me that this guy was not the slave of Umar when the incident took place, Aisha was not the wife of the Prophet when she narrates certain things that she wasn't even there for. Yep.
Ahsanteen, a very good point. This question says, Assalamu alaikum Sayyid Ammar. Imam Ali alayhi salam names his son Umar and gives his daughter to Umar ibn al-Khattab. Why do you all create fitna with these programs? I think we've had a few questions like this.
Yeah, well, we don't intend to create fitna with these programs. But I suppose if you offer any narrative that's different to the Sunni worldview, then it's always seen as fitna. Yes, if Imam Ali has a son by the name of Umar, I'm not understanding. Did Umar ibn al-Khattab buy the freehold on the name Umar? I don't get it. It's
copyright.
There's no copyright on that name. Salama had a son by the name of Umar. There were other Umars that lived at that time, and there are other Umars that lived after. With the issue of Kulthum, again, it's one which is debated. For certain, there's an Kulthum in the house of Imam Ali alayhi salam who marries Umar ibn al-Khattab. Whether that's Kulthum, daughter of Fatima al-Zahra, or Kulthum, daughter of Asma bint Umays, all of these are open to discussion. At the end of the day, who you give your daughters to doesn't necessarily always signify their religiosity. One only has to look at Hajjaj bin Yusuf al-Thaqafi and who he married. And one can also look at Nabi Lut alayhi salam, who's offering his daughters to not necessarily the holiest men in Sodom and Gomorrah. Yeah.
Ahsanteen. This question says, Assalamu alaikum Brother Minhal and Brother Sayyid Ammar Nakshawani, wa alaikum salam. I hope you two are doing well by the will of Allah, inshaAllah. hopefully this question will be seen and answered, inshallah, as it would be my honor. My question is regarding the grave of our beloved Fatimah al-Zahra alayha salam. Is there any knowledge as to if our beloved Imam al-Mahdi ajjalallahu ta'ala farajahu al-sharif will reveal this grave for us? Wassalamu alaikum.
Yeah, you know, the knowledge lies with the Ahl al-Bayt. Nobody else knows it. And we hope that the Imam of our time is the one who can show us, inshallah.
Ahsantum Sayyidina, thank you so much for that episode, inshallah. Dear brothers and sisters and dear viewers, do keep sending in your questions. They are coming to this iPad in many numbers. But inshallah, we will join you again tomorrow, the same time, as we continue to answer your questions and take in lessons from the life of the Lady of Light. There's too many L's in that.
But you did well with it. I love it.
Alhamdulillah.
Well done.
There's too many L's in there. And inshallah, we can be at your service. But my dear brothers and sisters, we are going to leave you with the Shia Voice with more information on your screens. And it would be our honor to host all of you here at Imam Hussein TV 3. But from me and the Sayyid and the crew here at Imam Hussein TV, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Imam Hussein Media Group is moving to a new location. As the shrines plan to expand, we at Imam Hussein Media Group have secured and built a new building to help continue our efforts for Abba Abdullah. The 13-story building will be harboring all 5 channels at Imam Hussein Media Group, as well as space for filming studios, editing suites, server rooms, and a Husseiniyah for the locals. Imam Hussein Media Group is giving all you viewers a chance to help and be a part of this venture we are embarking on. We are allowing people to support this project by donating $700. $700 is what it cost Imam Hussein TV to build, plaster, and paint 1 square meter of the building. Your donations will forever grant you reward and help you in your akhirah. For every show and program that is made and broadcasted, you will earn a share in its thawab. So please help and donate whatever you can. Remember, you are helping pave the way for millions to Karbala and to Imam Hussein.